98 Not Out, sponsored by Shepherd Neame, proud supporters of cricket in Essex.
A warm 98 Night Out welcome to Jonathan Trott. Jonathan, how are you?
Yeah, good in yourself.
Yeah, we're not too bad. Can you hear us nice and clearly?
Yeah, nice. Is that running okay?
Yeah, it's all good.
Brilliant.
Now, I'm assuming that you are at Edgbaston. I saw you on the TV earlier on this afternoon at the Somerset versus the Worcestershire Rapids T20 game.
Yeah, just doing a bit of scouting for the ECB. Obviously, keeping an eye on the domestic stuff with sort of view and an idea of players that are coming through the ranks and progressing nicely at the first class level.
But, well, being the batting coach and the batting scout for England, it was a bit of a batter's day today, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think so. Having a look at that wicket, we saw the way the Northants played and the fantastic players they've got. The Somerset played in the first game. And it looks like Northants are going to have their work cut out chasing this evening. So lots of runs at Edgbaston. The field is a little bit small. The boundaries have been brought in, and they're trying a sort of synthetic pitch, which is half grass and half artificial, which is quite interesting.
These are the new hybrid wickets that I think they've been trialled at quite a few grounds. Essex have got them as well this season, haven't they?
Yeah, they seem to come on quite nicely, and really interesting to see how they play over the season. I think it's perfect time to actually trial them and see how they go in the first class level. I think the amount of cricket that counties play and the squares need all the help they can get with regards to keeping the pace and bouncing the wicket, and I think we're seeing it evidently this evening.
It's pretty unforgiving for the bowlers, though. I mean, if you don't dig it in, if you bowl anything full or, too much on the length, it's going to get punished, isn't it?
Well, that is T20 these days, and I think that's what people want to see. They want good wickets and high scoring games. Bowlers always having to think of new ways to come up and combat batters. I still always think it's a bowler's game. Bowlers always say it's the batter's game, but I definitely are on the side of being a bowler's game.
So the Pakistan tour has ended, and like all of us, we're all really glad that they made the huge effort to come over and get a game on. What were what was your thoughts of how it all went on for both sides?
I think it's crucial in that we saw how the first test went and that victory. I just think, I sometimes, obviously at the situation that the world is in at the moment, to get test cricket underway is a magnificent effort. But I just wish there'd been a crowd and the spectacle at Old Trafford, the way that first test was won by England. You can imagine, a pretty hostile environment. I think that the way that Old Trafford is at the moment, it's set up for, quite a vibey and noisy atmosphere, especially with the temporary stand that they put up on the side that holds
huge,
numerous thousands of people, as we saw throughout the World Cup. And it just would have been nice, and I think it would have gone on one of the great victories. I just hope nothing's taken it away, and the innings and all the partnership between Wokes and Butler at the end was very, very special. And a wicket, we saw the previous two dismissals, the one from Ben Stokes which bounced out the rough, and the nasty delivery Ollie Pope got that hit him on the top hand. Never mind the bottom hand exploding through the pitch, and put in light the partnership between Butler and Wokes.
From your career, just expanding on that theme a little bit, where were the places around the world, and even in England, where you felt the crowd really did make a difference?
I think you speak to anybody, they always say Lords is their most their favourite place to play. I think opposition would say that as well, just because of the history on it. But there is a special atmosphere at Lords, very different to, say, the Oval, which is just down the road in London.
Yeah.
You'd always say that your Oval ground is more your working man's ground, and Lords would be the banker's ground. And if you speak to the people from Surrey and Middlesex, certainly Phil Tufnell would always say that, and that's certainly always a good guy to gauge cricket grounds on. But I think anybody who plays for England or play a game at Edgbaston always say that is, atmosphere-wise, electric and always very noisy. Another one that sneaks up on you and always is a good atmosphere is Trent Bridge, the way that those stands go up on each end. And now with the new stand on the side, certainly echoes around there, and you get some very bouncy evenings.
And around the world, what are the ones that stick out for you?
Well, I think whenever you play ODI cricket in India, it's always going to be noisy wherever you go. Even if it's for a single down to third man or long on, they're cheering for a T20 game. I think that's great. I've always enjoyed playing in India. Yes, the wickets are good, high scoring, fast outfields, but I always think that the passion and the way that the game's thought of and followed in India is always nice. MCG is always a good place to go to and play there. You get close to 100,000 spectators there. For me, though, I've always liked the Adelaide Oval. Pre the sort of development that they've done now, I always liked the atmosphere there, and just a great city as well, actually. So Adelaide for me. Newlands always good at the foot of Table Mountain.
Yeah.
And I always see a couple hundred metres from where I grew up, so that's always nice.
I think the other nice thing about Newlands is that it's still the same ground that it was pretty much 25 years ago, where I think it's a real shame that particularly in Australia, and as we've seen in the West Indies as well, these old-fashioned grounds are getting replaced. Adelaide, you mentioned, that's not the same place it was. Perth is a completely different...
you've lost the whacker almost completely now. They've got the new multi-purpose stadium there, which is, by all accounts, amazing.
Yeah.
I hope they sort of keep the character. It was always Perth. It was always a tough place to go and play at the whacker, that's for sure.
Bouncy, glassy wicket, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly, really quick.
Yeah, a bit like Jamaica in the old days. Sabina Park had that reputation of
yeah, it's supposed to be. It's apparently, those are the type of pitches where you went there and it was almost like glass. Your studs didn't go going to the wicket. The West Indies side in those days wanted hard and bouncy wickets. So that's certainly what they got.
We had Alan Lamb on the show a few weeks ago, and he was telling us about playing at Sabina Park against the feared West Indies attack back in 1990, and just how the atmosphere then, both on and off the field, was completely different to what it is these days. And it's a shame, really. It's a shame. Now,
I think certainly it is. I think certainly off the field, I don't think the teams mix as much as they used to. I think you look at the rivalry between Australia and England, and yes, it was there, but I think nowadays with the way the world is and media and that way, there isn't as much interaction, I think, socialising as much as there would. I also think players now don't tend to go out as much because of the invention of social media and camera phones and all that sort of stuff. Guys, they could be innocently just having a drink at the bar and a photo taken. It could be completely taken in the wrong way. So, so the players, it is a very different lifestyle to how it was in the 80s for Lambie and both, I'm sure. I think we need a whole different show for that sort of scenario. But the one thing I would say is I've been to some fantastic stadiums around the world. We won at Boxing Day at the MCG and in 2000, what was just the end of 2010. But you don't get to actually see the stadiums, and I was very fortunate enough now to go with the Lions to Australia and played a day-nighter at the MCG. And I actually just got to walk around the big new stand that they sort of built there and have a look at the library and the members area and that sort of stuff. That stuff that it sort of escapes you in the bubble of the England side. You don't actually have a chance to go and have a look at these magnificent places. And I'll never forget, actually, that before the Adelaide Test match of that year, end of 2010, that on the far side used to be the Bradman stand. And underneath they had this little Bradman museum, because obviously Don Bradman played a few years at South Australia as well as New South Wales. I actually just got to have a look around the museum. I remember walking with my cricket stuff actually in my bag, on my back. And the person, the person looking after the museum was astounded that a player would come in and have a look. And I was just looking at all the bats and gloves, and there's a little video. I sat down in a little cinema room and watched the cinema. And you sometimes don't get to see that side of the game that the spectators actually enjoy, and what keeps bringing them back to the game.
Was that series the highlight of your career, the 2010-2011 Ashes win?
I think so. I think to go to Australia and we see how hard it has been previously. The teams going there and very, very good sides and coming unstuck, and obviously hadn't been done for such a long time. But I'm also quick to point out going to India and winning there 2-1 after being 1-0 down in a 4-test series is something very special. And the names in that side just roll off the tongue: Tendulkar, Sehwag, Harbhajan Singh, Dhoni, Kohli. And it's a very, very good side to have beaten, certainly on the home soil, Gautam Gambhir. And so it just showed the strength and depth that we had. We could call on a bowler like Monty Panesar to back up and bowl in tandem with a guy like Graham Swan. and spin us to victory, along with the seamers and the skill. I think I wouldn't say at the peak of Jimmy Anderson and seam bowlers, but certainly coming into the peak of their careers. We're a very, very lucky side who had some fantastic players.
Well, it wasn't too shabby a batting lineup as well, was it? Particularly in in that India series you talk about. I mean, everyone remembers KP's efforts there, and I think Alistair Cook as well. Kind of cemented his position as a world-class player.
Well, don't forget, a lot of people forget that's also Alistair Cook's first tour as captain, or his first sort of tenure as captain, first series. And we lost the first game at Ahmedabad, and he got 100 in it, but we lost badly. And then he went on to get another 2 in, so he got 3 in the first 3 test matches. And that just shows the steeliness of the guy and the way that he led and sort of played from the front, captain from the front. But that innings from Kevin Peterson at the Wankhede Stadium, by far, I would say by far the best innings I've seen in life, but that is the best innings I've seen, test innings I've seen on a Wankhede pitch that was spinning, a lot. And then when India went on to bat, we saw exactly how hard it was to bat on and how easy Kevin actually made it against their 3 frontline spinners.
For your batting, you got yourself into this amazing bubble, didn't you, that just seemed to be able to put everything else out of your mind. And I remember you sort of digging big holes in the wicket and just batting for time and time on end.
Well, yeah, I think that was my sort of way that I went about it. And I think going into number 3, I'd never really done a lot of work at number 3 for Warwick, so I sort of had to change my game a little bit. But the one thing, again, I'll always say is I think my career, I certainly benefited from having the opening partnership with Strauss and Cook. I think any number 3, you see, if you have that solidity ahead of you, you always come in generally around the 20th, 25th over. I could have my pads on 50 over the way that those 2 play. And I think that helps you a lot, sort of ease yourself in. I'm not going to say ease yourself into any position in Test cricket, but it certainly makes your job a bit easier, having that solidity at the top, and something, the England side has been searching for ever since that partnership, or that pairing.
Well, it was a match. Sorry, yeah.
You've never really had that since those 2. Hopefully we see that with Burns and Sibley, and that would be fantastic going forward into what's a big 12-18 months for the Test side.
I've got to mention, obviously, people batting in their bubble. We saw Zach Crawley with the big innings. You worked with him last year, didn't you, at Kent as well a bit? Yeah,
well, that's the first time Zach and I sort of met each other. I played against him a few times. I always thought he was a tall, elegant player, hit the ball pretty hard. And then he got a good 90 in my final year against, in my final season at Tunbridge Wells. I think he played very nicely. And then it's kicked on from last year, and he's the type of guy. And you notice this about the good players, is that the good players, they learn quicker than the others. Their development accelerates a lot quicker than others. And, a very naturally gifted guy at the age of, I think he's 21, nearly 22. But picks things up, good all-round sportsman, good athlete. And hopefully he's got a very bright future. Hopefully he can make the position his own. It's a great start for him. But hopefully he keeps learning, and he certainly has a passion for the game. I wish him all the best.
Obviously, we've all seen the Edge documentary. How easy or hard was it for you to get involved with that? Because obviously it covered a bit of your issues as well, didn't it?
I think with the way that Barney had done it, I think he was always envisaged. He'd come to me or all the guys he spoke to and said, this is my vision. This is what I want to do, and it's sort of a sort of blank canvas for you to say what you want to say. And he obviously worked with us behind the scenes on all those tours. He was the ECB's sort of then the infancy of social media or the internet and people online, staying connected. He was the guy behind Swanee's diaries. And that's how we got to know him. He was on tour with us the whole time. So I think when you have that trust between the guy making the film, the director, and yourself, I think you're always going to get what you got. And I think that's crucial to anything when you're putting your time and effort into it. But the guys are honest and feel comfortable, talking about anything at all.
There's a memorable scene from that film of you diving into a swimming pool in full kit. But I read somewhere that wasn't quite as straightforward as it looked with the finished product.
No, I think what wasn't straightforward is a 2-hour train journey he got me to do from Birmingham to Peterborough to dive into the water tank and then back. And then the 2 hours I spent in the water jumping in and out. But the thing is, I think what you're alluding to there is actually realising how much cricket equipment actually floats.
Yeah,
If you think about pads, it's got foam, and you actually don't realise how wood actually floats. I'm sure I'm not going to sort of reenact a scene out of Titanic when you float on wood, but you dive in, but you almost go straight up. You can't. But he wanted me to sort of glide past the window, sort of turn as a sort of like a whale. The cricket equipment floats, so the gloves, the sort of pads. That I actually had to put sort of diving weights underneath the whites at the time, so the helmet floats. So you sort of want me to be a bit like an orca going past the screen. So that was good fun, and I think again, guys doing that. I mean, you're not really going to get Jimmy Anderson running on a beach, are you? Quite often, guys are going to do things like that for Barney, and hopefully has a very, very long and successful career in the movie industry.
Now I've got to ask, being a Spurs fan as well, away from cricket, you're a big Spurs fan, aren't you?
Very big, yeah.
Have you been to the new ground yet?
Yeah, I was actually there for the Ajax semi-final.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The home one where we lost 1-0, didn't we?
Are you going to try the Skywalk?
Was it one? It was 1-0.
Yeah, it was 1-0. We lost at home and then 3-2. Are you going to try? Right. You going to try the Skywalk? Is that something you'd fancy doing?
No. I'm not sure of that yet.
And you also.
It does look impressive, and it'd be great if we can start getting a few fans in as well.
Well, hopefully they've got the test event at Surrey tonight, haven't they? They've let fans in there.
Very good.
So I
hope that goes really well.
And you're also a big baseball guy, aren't you, as well?
Yeah, baseball, NFL, my two sort of things away from you'd say British-based sports. I've been to the Super Bowl and watched that, and my mighty 49ers were very narrowly lost the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Besides for a crazy 10 minutes at the end, they were sort of had their hands on the Lombardi Trophy, and then on the other coast, the East Coast, I'm a New York Yankees fan. Following the likes of Jeter my whole career, or his whole career, and the Alex Rodriguez and all those sort of guys that have donned the pinstripes, if you like.
I've been very lucky that I've spent time in the US with work and whatever, and both on the East Coast and the West Coast. And I was taken along to baseball games quite a lot. So I've been to the Yankee Stadium, I've been to the Sky Dome up at Toronto, and I was 6 months in California. And it's a very, very different experience, isn't it? Watching sport in America is probably anywhere else in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they do it so well. And I think with baseball, you just see the history, and they follow the game so passionately there. It's almost like going to cricket in India, if you like. I think the way that the NFL is done, and that's sort of its own industry, if you like, the way that the NFL operates. And we're seeing now, even you would have thought 5 years ago, you'd have your own dedicated NFL channel in the UK that's starting up, I think it's tomorrow, isn't it?
I think it's starting today.
Big launch tonight.
Yeah.
It's tonight, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the rest of the week done for me. So, you watch all these programs, I just think the way that they do show the sports and the way that they talk about the sports as well, the access that you get to the players, you almost feel you almost know the players. And just the way that they're always so positive. If you ever go to America, you listen to the commentators. They're always praising people. They're never sort of saying how bad somebody was, or they'd always praise the opposition if it was a home advantage sort of, or a home commentator. They'd always say how good the opposition played, not that the home team or their own players should have done better. And they're always praising excellence, which is something I find refreshing. And whenever you go to the States and watch a game, you always find yourself glued to the telly watching some sport, one or another.
There's loads on. Now, for you, obviously, you're working with the ECB at the moment. Is there a long-term plan? Do you want to get into more coaching, be a head coach, or...?
Well, yes. I mean, at the moment, I think everything and jobs, it's all a bit up in the air, especially in the modern climate. But it was just for that test series against Pakistan. I know the guys start soon against Australia, and they've got the normal coaches in line there. But I've done each winter. I've done 2 Lions tours with their side. We went to India 2 years ago and Australia last year. and I've done an under-19s World Cup as well, which was a couple of years ago. So just, I think it's important. I think with coaching, you just earning your way up and getting as much experience. So hopefully, when something does pop up, and I'm very ambitious with my coaching now, and that side, obviously retired and not really missing the game at all, to be honest with you, and probably I've sort of done my time, and I always say I've hit enough balls or more balls than any human being should. So, I'm very happy, and I'm also very lucky in that I've got to sort of get a bit of closure on the game. A lot of people, the game is taken away from them, either, from a selector or international career, that is, or, get released, or not many people get the opportunity to retire on their own terms. So
that's right.
I have a lot to be thankful for, and hopefully I can give back and hopefully get to the level I want to get to with my coaching now.
Oh, we hope so too. Before you go, I just want to ask you one final question. So I'd like to know from you, who is the best player you've played with, and who has been your hardest, toughest opponent?
Kevin Peterson, and hardest opponent would probably be Dale Steyn.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Why?
Well, I think it's always interesting when we have former players on here, just to find out, what they think of people. Because sometimes you might look at a player and you might think it's an obvious answer. But with Kevin Peterson, that's an interesting one, because I think there seems to be a widely held view of the man being really talented, but I think few people understood the man's character or how he ticked. And I think he was successful because of the type of person that he is, and I think other people necessarily didn't buy into that or understand it and expect successful people, whether it's in sport or otherwise.
I mean, everyone's got their, Kevin's the way we all know how Kevin is, and I've always got on well with him. I think we sort of played against each other at school level or under 19 level, where we had a bit of a bit of a clash then, and I think we've always just respected each other mutually. And I think with Kev, he's always he's actually quite a loyal guy deep down, unless he feels threatened or someone who feels like somebody's been disloyal to him. He's a pretty decent guy. That's when if he thinks he's been wronged, he doesn't sort of let things go quite easily, as we've seen, and he always sort of goes on. And I think, but that's what makes the guy so good and so determined, and that self-belief and belief in his own morals or his own views on things. Not many people, if you said to somebody, you turn around and hit the ball left-handed, they'd go, in an international game, I'll probably just, do what I think's best. But he's got that sort of self-belief that when he's right, he just does it. I think with him, certainly, I don't think even people that perhaps you would perceive that wouldn't necessarily say that, or get on massively with Kev, or, exchange Christmas cards, they would say he's the best player.
But Dale Steyn is a different character again, but I'm not surprised to hear you mention him, because, he really was quite a sight when he was in full flow coming start.
Oh, yeah. The other thing also is that I always go with that, because he was at Warwickshire for a year or so I got to take a few catches at and then watch him sort of grow into the player he was. When he came to Warwickshire in 2007, he was very raw. He had just burst on the scene, had been in and out of the South African side of it a little bit, but you saw the natural gift, talent that he had. And why you say that with an old ball, with a new ball, he'd always just work you out a little bit, and that was it. I always felt he had a delivery in him that you would just mix. It didn't necessarily feel like he was going to hurt you or he was going to sort of knock you over, but he knew he had something in him where he could just outskill you a little bit.
Yeah.
With an old ball come around the wicket. I remember facing it headingly in a match 2012 where he just had to try and block out. He came around the wicket and then he sort of cranked it up a little bit. So where he could sort of crank it up, but also then operate at a level which would bowl at a pace that actually suited the pitch. And so he had that skill and understanding of his own game and the game of cricket. So that's what made him so tough.
Jonathan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and we're really thankful that you could give us the time to join us.
Thank you very much.
And we wish you well. We'll be following you closely, and we'll be in touch at a later date, hopefully.
Thanks very much. I hope to hear some more Coldplay or rock sets.
Cheers. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay,
guys, bye.
Take care. Bye now.
Bye.